On today's Cowboys Report, to answer many questions that I've seen, I want to break down what the Cowboys' options are at the trade market along the defensive tackle room. There's injuries, there's poor play, there's all kind of bad stuff going on right now in this defensive tackle room. Oso Odigizua has not played great for the first two games. Mozzie Smith's back has flared up on him. They've signed Carlos Watkins and put Jordan Phillips on IR. Linval Joseph looks like old man Linval Joseph. That's not a great thing. There's giant question marks, as there were going into the offseason and season, about this defensive tackle room. So will the Cowboys trade for a defensive tackle? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's video. Not what you want them to do. What do you think they will end up doing? Y for yes, N for no. I want to break down some of these top defensive tackle trade targets. The things you have to consider here as you judge what the feasibility is of additions along the defensive line is multifold. The simplest of which is the cost. How much is it going to cost you in terms of the money to pay the new player you're acquiring and the draft pick you're giving up? Dallas has cap space. They might be saving that for next year. They have draft picks. How many of those are they going to give are willing to move on from? Probably not your premium ones, but the comp picks, maybe. You've also got to find a team willing to sell. It's not always doable this early in the season. I also want to consider your short-term, long-term hopes and expectations. I don't know if a short-term veteran rental, actually makes that much sense. And that has to be considered when you face this reality of where you're at in the season. You are looking for a March-level impact. That is what you're trying to find. A really good football player. And or you might just need bodies too, frankly. But finding that level of player, that March, or if you want to go to April to the draft, that level of impact in September is really hard. These are the consequences you are facing of your inaction. Boy, wouldn't it have been great to fill other needs in free agency so you could have drafted a DT earlier or signed a defensive tackle in free agency? Yeah, that's what we spent 7 months complaining about. You're now paying the price for it. I think there are some pipe dreams in terms of trades. I'm not even going to bother with Aaron Donald. No. Dexter Lawrence, the Giants are not trading him, even though I love him. Vita Vea is banged up, but also not going to get traded by Tampa. They're a contender. I'd be pretty shook if Jeffrey Simmons got shopped at any point in the near future by the Titans. And Derek Brown's also out for the year. So, great players. No, you're not going to find a way to acquire any of those guys. So, ignoring that list of names, name a defensive tackle who you would like to see the Dallas Cowboys go out and trade for. Let me know in the comment section of today's video. First up on the list, and this is the closest one to a pipe dream that maybe you could potentially see moved at some point, is Jonathan Allen, the longtime Commanders defensive tackle. This is someone I would be willing, even though he's a little bit older, to give up a more premium pick for, because I think he's an awesome football player. I think he instantly becomes your best defensive lineman on the roster. He's a damn good football player. He actually might be available, unlike your Dexter Lawrence's, your Vita Vea's, your recently paid defensive linemen like Christian Wilkins or Quinnen Williams or whatever. I think Allen could maybe be on the move. Now, some issues here you're going to run into. Number one, he's due $15 million this year. Now, it's not quite the full 15. It's the prorated figure, so it's really 15 divided by 18 times however many weeks of the season are left. So round and say 10, just for easy math purposes. You can afford that. Would Dallas do it? It's not their MO. And in-division trades are especially rare, especially in season. You don't normally see teams saying, yes, our big rival, let's help you be better. It's not how it normally goes. But this is a March-level impact. This is a high-caliber player who could drastically boost your results up front and actually could help fix your run defense and your pass rush. It would also be extremely un-Cowboys-like. It's not how they do business. They make trades in mid-season form, but the biggest ones they'll do is a Michael Bennett. Not a Jonathan Allen. They'll do Eli Inaku 2.0 trade again before they pursue that route hypothetically. More DTs to come, but first, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, it's just you against the numbers. One of their fun little, I'll call them bonuses, free things they're doing is Caleb Williams. Every one Caleb Williams passing yard's a win. Just got to get to the one. Half a passing yard. He'll get there. That's kind of one of your freebies. I normally do the flex play. I'm doing power plays, though, with that one. Give me more than CeeDee Lamb receiving yards. He's got to get fed. And Derrick Henry more than rushing yards because that's, they're not very good at stopping the run. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Now, the rest of the names on this list, for the most part, not nearly as impactful as Jonathan Allen, but again, this is what happens when you're trying to make moves in September. Phidarian Mathis, same team. Former third-round pick, also out of Alabama, hasn't played a ton, in part because of injuries over the past couple years. But the draft pedigree is there, and in general, I almost always hate well, how much worse can it get? That's how you get bad results and you end up hating yourself. It actually might end up being that scenario where you really can't get much worse. Maybe you try Cooper Beebe back at defensive tackle. I'm kidding. You're kind of desperate here. One notable name is DJ Jones, who had some really good success in San Francisco and then hasn't been as good in Denver. Now, he's got a squattier build listed at 6'3", 305, so we are checking off, for the most part, the fatty metric, which has been one of the all-time greatest disasters in Cowboys history of the bits and memes that I've done here. Better results in San Fran. In fact, he had 10 TFLs in 2021, 7 in 2022. He's had 8 combined the past 2 seasons. Denver's a seller. They will be willing to move on, probably less so from offense. That defense, though, could be available. And probably not John Finkelmeyers, who I love. Maybe not Zach Allen. But last year of his deal, DJ Jones, that could come true. Now, he's due a prorated $10 million in 2024. So, again, maybe it ends up being like 7 or something. But you can afford that. Maybe Denver would even eat some of it. All potential options. When the Cowboys make a trade, we will have you covered. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/Cowboys TV for daily Cowboys videos all season and off-season long. All right, Shy Tuttle, the Panthers defensive tackle. We're going to look at 2 different Panthers players because they're bad. Now, no Derek Brown makes things complicated here. Tuttle's been a DT3 for a good portion of his career, maybe a DT4 on the Saints. Kind of is in that mold right now with Carolina as well. He does have some of the size you're looking for. Again, Carolina's a team you have to call because they're bad. And I don't think they're going to get much better with Andy Dalton out there starting. Player's not that great, but at least the name's pretty fun. This is very much in the veteran mold. A'Shawn Robinson, who somehow has a ton of tackles in 2 games for Carolina, which is indicative of how just weird that team has been overall. This is a big boy. He's a fatty, 6'3", 320. He's spent time with the Giants, the Rams, the Lions, now in Carolina. I thought he was solid in 2023. Not great, but again, relative to what you have, this is probably one of your better, more realistic options of trading for a mercenary defensive tackle who might be an upgrade for you. I do emphasize might because, it's Carolina. It's September acquisitions. I don't want to give false hope of trade for this guy and the defense is fixed. You got a lot of issues there. This is just one step of it. So what is your confidence level in the Cowboys when it comes to trades? You haven't had the best results with those. Sound off for me in the comments of today's show. I'm going to include DeMarvin Leal on here, even though he's kind of been more of a pass rusher than a defensive interior player for Pittsburgh this year. He kind of got caught up in what several players on this next list we'll get to here have been caught up on. He's a bit of a tweener. Not really big enough to be a full-time DT, but maybe what you even consider doing here is, hey, to help fix your run defense, can I find a better version of Chauncey Golston? I don't know if DeMarvin Leal is actually that type of player, but again, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel here, folks. It's not great. This is the consequences of your action. 2 Falcons players I want to get to. And I don't know how likely they'd actually be moved, but worst thing you can do is call. First up is Brandon Dorlus, who has not played this season in Atlanta. He was picked number 109 coming out of Oregon. He was one of my favorite prospects, relative to where I had him graded, obviously, in the class. 65th overall, was number 5 ranked defensive tackle. There was one giant glaring issue for him. He was a tweener. He wasn't athletic enough to stay at defensive end, and maybe not big enough to be a full-time DT. Now, he's listed at 290. If he's actually 290, I don't know if he truly is. That's awesome for him. That's a great weight for him. And if he hasn't lost the athletic juice, I'm really intrigued. But he gets his hands up. He's probably more, though, of a pass rusher at DT than a run stopper. But he's not playing in Atlanta, so I can at least call. Also, strangely not playing in Atlanta is their second-round pick, Ruka. Now, maybe they're not going to trade Rook and they'd be willing to listen to somebody else on that depth chart, but they're also kind of contenders, so you're in a weird spot. The Falcons getting 0 impact from their draft class in the year they want to win the division is super unusual, given that they had a top 10 pick. I liked him a little bit less so than where the Falcons took him, but I can call, right? Like, he should be playing. He's not playing. That's a huge red flag in Atlanta for a second-round pick. I would doubt it, but again, I am trying to get creative with some of my available options. He's also kind of a tweener. Like, he would probably be your long-term Osa replacement. But if Osa's going to get blown off the ball like Jordan Phillips is, what am I going to do out here? So I don't have great options. I know there's a lot of like, that's not going to happen. That's a bad idea, whatever. This is where you're at. You're in a rough spot because you didn't make moves when you should have in the actual offseason.